What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another episode of Grey Man Operations. It is finally our review of the Akra Origin X Reflex Micro 2.0. What an absolutely ridiculous name. This is my very first green dot, red dot. So I really took my time with this and I wanted to ensure that I was able to run it as comfortably as I would a red dot. Everyone I'd spoken to about red dots and green dots said, look, dude, pretty much after like 5 seconds, you're not even really going to notice that you're running a totally different colored dot because you're just going to switch into normal shooting mode. So we're going to get into all the specs. We're going to get into the ruggedness. This is probably one of the more rugged RMSC footprinted red dots, which is something I really quite appreciate. All firearms are empty and safe and will remain so throughout the video. I also tried the dot on all of my firearms. My Emitter SF or my TP9 SF, as well as, oops, sorry about the noise there, as well as on my SFX. Now guys, those of you who follow the channel will know that at the end of September, I'm going to be giving away a Canik Meta SF on Patreon. If you want to join on Patreon and stand a chance to win one of those, the link to it is the first link in the video description below if you're watching on YouTube, and it's the first comment if you found this video on Facebook or Instagram. Let's get to the review. So the first thing I wanted to find out when running a green dot is how visible is it during daytime. I booked a session with my shooting coach Anton from Concealment Training, and I ran a good few hundred rounds through it. I can confidently say that in the middle of the day, when the sun is beating down, I think it was a cloudless day or a not too cloudy day, finding the green dot was not a problem. In fact, I shot better on that day than I'd ever shot on all of my other training courses and pretty much ever shot. Now that I'm not saying it's because of the green dot. Maybe it's just because I've been putting in time training, but it definitely didn't affect my ability to run my firearm. And just like everyone said, after like 5 seconds, the moment you start shooting, you really forget that you're looking at a different colored dot. The contrast between the background and the green dot is sufficient so that you are able to pick it out of the background. Even though the background is slightly green, a green dot is a different color green. Something I also noticed, and I don't know if it's on all green dots, but this sucker is super bright. On like level 6 or 8, it's as bright as some of my more modern red dots when they are on maximum level. Now I don't know if it's just because the eye picks up green better, but I found the green dot to be extremely bright. In terms of the emitter and the quality of the emitter, I always say on transitions, I don't want to see any flickering, and I can confirm that there was no flickering. So even when moving left to right transitioning, though I'm not focusing on my dot, when I did focus on it just for testing purposes, I didn't notice any dot flicker, which is generally always the sign of a good emitter. Indoor shooting was not a problem. Both myself and Michelle put a ton of rounds downrange at the indoor range. Like I said, I shot it on all my different firearms. The red dot's eventually going to find its way to live on Michelle's TP9. I do like the way it looks. Not TP9, excuse me, MC9. I do like the way it looks on her gun, and it is slightly bigger if you look at it compared to the original Akra Micro Reflex, whatever. Akra, you're going to have to change your names of these things, man. Come on. The window size is a bit bigger, and I can tell you it's bigger than the Holosun 407K. I've got it actually on my tablet here. So the window size of this is 22 millimeters by 16, 22 across, 16 down. The 407K is 19.6 across and 14 down. The RMSC, however, is 21 across and 17 down. So it's almost the size of the RMSC window, but it's got a much more robust shroud. Now, I spoke to the guys at Akra, and I asked, can we drop test this sucker? And they were very nervous. Now, Most RMSC footprinted red dots tend to not do well when drop tested. It is in the documentation that this is not a drop test safe red dot, and what I mean by that is it doesn't say that you can drop test it. But the guys from Akra said, look, you know what's the worst that could happen? It could break and we could simply know that it's not drop testable, even though it doesn't say it's drop testable, so technically it isn't drop testable. So I gave it a drop test. Now I can tell you the dot itself survived. I actually dropped it on, can you see that? It's like a little red mark over there. I dropped it on the red paint on the concrete. Michelle said only one drop please, because she doesn't want her gun to get too scuffed up, and I wrapped it, but I wrapped it in such a way that it doesn't affect the dot. However, there was a deviation in the zero. I can also tell you that you can re-zero it and it will hold the zero, but the dot itself remains intact, which I appreciate. Had it said it is drop safe and the zero deviated, I would have been a bit more concerned, but there's nothing in the documentation that says the red dot is drop safe. Talking about documentation, let's get to what you get in the box. Akra box, microfiber cloth sticker, Akra Origin X Reflex Micro 2.0, RMSC Picatinny eraser plate, zeroing and mounting wrenches, and a ton of different mounting screws. Now guys, I have put over 1,000 rounds through my different firearms while the red dot was mounted, and during my shooting I noticed no deviation in the zero. I was actually even from my TP9 to Michelle's MC9, when I switched the dot over, there was hardly a deviation in the zero, which was actually quite impressive. I can confidently therefore say that for most people, the Akra Origin X Reflex Micro 2.0 is going to survive all of the testing that the average person is going to do to it probably during the lifetime of the dot. The dot itself is a 3 MOA dot. It has 10 brightness settings. You get it in a green or a red dot. The battery life on medium setting is 50,000 hours on a CR1632 battery. However, the battery is not included. The battery is side mountable, so you do not have to remove the red dot. The native footprint is RMSC. It's got a fog-proof coating and an auto shut-off and shake-awake. Under low light conditions, using a Streamlight TLR7 at around 10 meters, you can pick out that green dot easily. It really is an incandescently bright green dot, and I'm quite keen to compare it to other green dots to see whether or not it's just because your eye picks up the green better, or if this particular green dot is just way brighter than other green dots. But finding it under low light, absolutely not a concern at all. Guys, for the money, I think this Akra green dot is a really good option. It's around 4,000 bucks, which in South African terms for red dots is not a lot of money. If you are in the market, if you are looking for your next red dot or your first red dot, and you don't want to break the bank and you are running something like a Canic, this will fit natively to all Canics. Okay, so you don't have to worry about mounting plates or anything like that. You can just mount and you're good to go to the range and zero and start shooting. Most people are not going to chuck the amount of rounds and switch them out on different firearms the way I did. So you're more than likely, as the average shooter, going to get an acceptable life out of something that costs this much and runs this well. At the end of the day, I can only test this for as long as I can test it, and in the months I've had it, it's functioned perfectly. The only downfall is I wish Akra would add in a battery, because you kind of want to get the thing and get going immediately, right? Guys, that is my review of the Akra Origin X Reflex Micro 2.0. I want to say a huge thanks to the guys over at Akra for hooking us up with this red dot. If you like this kind of thing, please consider subscribing. Remember guys, on Patreon at the end of September, we are giving away another firearm, this time a Canic Emitter SF. That's it guys, have a good week, be safe, train hard, cheers, God bless.